Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name, of course, is John Campea, and this is a special video we're doing here talking about some breaking news that just dropped a little over 1 hour ago. Now, as some of you may remember, we talked on the John Campea show the other day that Fox Studios had announced that they had frozen production. They had stopped production on the upcoming film Bohemian Rhapsody. Of course, it's the Queen biopic, because of the unexpected unavailability of Bryan Singer. From that point on, we started to hear some rumors about potentially that Bryan Singer was going stretches of time without actually showing up on set, that he wasn't going on set, that he wasn't showing up to his own movie, and that his own cinematographer had to step in on a number of occasions to actually direct scenes when they had no idea where Bryan was. Now, when they suspended production, Bryan Singer's representatives put out a statement saying Bryan was attending to personal and family health matters and that he hoped to be returning to the production sometime in the new year. However, as we suspected at first, we thought there might be a whole lot more going on behind the scenes, and it has now been announced that Fox has fired their director, Bryan Singer, a guy they have a long, successful history with. Remember, Bryan Singer is the guy behind the X-Men franchise, a very profitable, a very successful franchise for Fox Studios, and they have fired him off there, apparently due to what they were talking about, his constant absences, and I guess the excuse that his representatives made to the public, personal and family health matters, wasn't good enough for Fox, and they ultimately let him go. Now, what makes this really unusual is the fact that, according to most reports, there's only about 2 weeks left in production. But I guess Fox has just said enough is enough, and they have let him go. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this story here, but I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what your opinions and your reaction and your thoughts are to this story. Do me a favor, guys, if you're watching right now, simply tweet to me at John Campea. Send out a tweet to me at John Campea, and in a couple of minutes, I'm going to go to the live Twitter stream here and take your guys' thoughts, opinions, and reaction to this story that we're hearing about Bryan Singer right now. Now, of course, the movie is starring, well, it was supposed to star Sacha Baron Cohen. Remember, Sacha Baron Cohen was attached to this movie for years before he wasn't there, but now iRobot star Rami Malek, I believe is how you pronounce his name, the Emmy Award-winning actor from iRobot, he's playing the lead. Now, how this is all going to affect things, they're not sure. Fox has not announced whether or not they are bringing on a new director or they're just going to use one of their existing crew to finish off the film. They haven't let that be known yet, and they haven't announced officially when they're going to start production back up as well. It is possible that they may just freeze production on this until the new year sometimes because we are coming up on the Christmas break, or they might try to get things moving a lot faster than that. So without getting into too much speculation, remember, right now we don't have a lot of the facts. All we know for sure is that Fox let him go, Singer wasn't showing up on set a number of times, and ultimately Fox pulled the trigger to do something about it. Now, here's what we're finding out from Variety magazine, which right now has been reporting the story about this happening. They're saying Fox has fired Bryan Singer as director of Bohemian Rhapsody 3 days after his repeated absences from the set had forced the studio to halt production. Bryan Singer is no longer the director of Bohemian Rhapsody, the studio said Monday. Fox did not elaborate. The studio terminated Singer under the pay-or-play provision of his contract, sources indicated, due to his repeated failures to show up on set. A new director has not yet been named. Now, I'm going to say it right out. I am a fan of Bryan Singer. I'm a big fan of Bryan Singer. Not only do I love his X-Men stuff, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, I really love the stuff that he has helped with putting together with Legion and The Gifted and all that kind of stuff. His film Usual Suspects is one of my top 10 all-time favorite films. You hear me talk about that movie all the time. I love the film he did with Tom Cruise, Valkyrie. Love that movie. I'm a big fan of his directing. But this type of behavior, if what we're hearing is actually true, that this guy is a director on these movies and he's not even showing up to his own set? I mean, one can only begin to speculate about what's keeping this dude from set. Does he legitimately have some kind of health concerns? Well, you think if he did, that Fox would have, like, kind of not thrown him under the bus. You think they would have said, hey, due to health concerns with Bryan, we're gonna mutually part ways here. You'd think something like that would have been described, but that's not what they're saying. Is this him just thinking he's too big and he's so important in Hollywood that he doesn't even need to show up on set? I don't know that, but I'm just left here to speculate. Is this him with substance abuse problems? I don't know. I'm just left here to speculate. Nobody's telling us anything. And maybe that's a credit to Fox. Maybe Fox knows about the problems, whatever those problems are that Bryan Singer's having, and they're not deciding to air them out publicly. Okay, that's fine. I don't believe for a second, though, that claim that his publicist put out, oh, he's dealing with some personal and family health matters. Again, if that was the case, I think we would have heard from Fox elaborating on that, saying, hey, you know what? We got to get our movie done, so we understand Bryan's having some issues with health issues with himself or his family, so we've decided for now to mutually part ways. We'll finish the movie without him and everything's good. But that's not what they said. They just come out and put out this statement, Bryan Singer is no longer the director of Bohemian Rhapsody, and moved on from there. Now, I don't want to go into all the other clouds that hang over Bryan Singer's head as far as accusations we've heard in the past and stuff like that go. Nothing's been proven, so I'm not going to go into that stuff. But what we do have in front of us here is a major motion picture where a studio is investing hundreds of millions of dollars, if you want to count production and marketing, prints and all that kind of stuff, hundreds of millions of dollars. They entrust him to this guy that they have worked with for over a decade now in Bryan Singer. And the dude repeatedly doesn't show up to work. That is inexcusable. So what might be going on behind the scenes here? And maybe there's a legitimate explanation for all this. Maybe there's something that's going to come out in the news in the next few days that's going to make you and me as fans go, oh, okay, all right, I get it. Okay, that's fine, that makes sense. But right now, on the surface, this just all looks horrible. This looks horrible on its surface. And again, let's make sure we keep in mind that we could hear in a couple of days a totally rational explanation for all of this. Let's keep that in mind. Fair enough. But it's also fair enough when something like this happens where we're being given no explanation at all, it's fair enough for us to speculate and wonder, this smells dirty. I mean, this smells really bad. And is anybody going to want to work with this guy again? I'm a big fan of his as a director. But if I'm a producer and I'm finding out that this guy just flagrant just doesn't show up to set, doesn't let people know where he's going to be and doesn't come into work, I'm not going to work with him. Doesn't matter how much I love his previous movies, I'm not going to work with him. But listen here, guys, the big thing here is I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what your thoughts and opinions and reactions are to this. Make sure you tweet to me right now. Simply open up Twitter, fire off a tweet to me at John Campea. Let me go down to the Twitter board right now and see if any of you guys have anything to say about this. We'll start off with this. This first one comes into us from Deet C, who says, I'm betting $10 that this has the next scandal of sexual misconduct. I don't know if I agree with that. I really don't. I don't know that this, just him not showing up to set, is consistent with something like that. So I don't know if that's the case here. Let's see. This next reaction comes to us from Brandon M. Smith, who's writing, John, in your opinion, will Singer be hired for any future Fox movies, or did he burn the bridge per se? Look, that's the really interesting thing about this, is that it's interesting enough if this was Bryan Singer being fired off a movie with any studio. But the fact of the matter is Bryan Singer has a very long, very lucrative, very successful relationship with Fox. And for Fox to be the studio that steps up and says, Bryan Singer's out, we fired him, where does that leave you? I mean, really, where does that leave you? What kind of, I mean, they still work closely with them as a producer on their, their hit television series on Legion and on The Gifted. I mean, Bryan directed a couple of episodes of The Gifted. He's credited as one of the creators. They clearly have a tight relationship with them. What does this do? Does this signal just a rap on the wrist from Fox and taking him off Bohemian Rhapsody, and this is their warning to him? Hey, look, if you mess up a lot, we're just going to break our relationship with you entirely. Or is this something larger in scale? And again, we're just speculating. Is this something larger in scale where Fox may just be breaking off their relationship with him entirely and we're not going to see Bryan Singer attached to anything X-Men related again? I don't know where they're at right now, but it seems to be one of two options. One, them firing him off Bohemian Rhapsody is a slap on the wrist. Or two, this is a more holistic separation between them and Bryan Singer, and we're going to have to see how this kind of works out. Next one comes to us from Kane the Strange saying, is Ron Howard or Joss Whedon around? They seem to be the guys who step into a movie who needs a new director at the last second. Could be something like that. Let's see. This next reaction comes to us from J Dolan74, who's writing, John, people have also said Bryan Singer pulled this on Apocalypse and Superman Returns. Is this a case of a final straw, perhaps? It might be. It very well might be, because I had never heard of these stories of Bryan Singer not showing up to set and not showing up for work. I had never heard those stories before. But when the story came out a few days ago about how Fox had halted production on the movie because of the unexpected unavailability of Bryan Singer, a few stories started to surface that this is not the first time that he's pulled this. And apparently this wasn't just once he did it on this movie. Apparently this has happened several times throughout the production of the film. That it's got to be bad enough. And again, we're left here to speculate because they're not giving us details. So it's fair to speculate. But what strikes me is that being only 2 weeks away from completing shooting, this has to have been a major problem for them to pull the plug on him this late in the game. This obviously couldn't have been just a first infraction. This couldn't have been the first time that this happened. This must be, I'm assuming at this point, a repeated sense of behavior, a pattern of negative behavior that they must have seen in him to make them finally go, even just 2 weeks left in the production, go, forget it, we're breaking ties with this guy. So, I mean, that's all I can assume at this point. Anyway, the next tweet comes to us from Campea, who writes, John, not surprised. And, you know, I'm getting that same sense. Looking online, in my inbox, on Facebook, on Twitter, that's the sense I'm getting from a lot of people. A lot of people saying that they are not surprised at all. Now, a super chat's been sent in from JackJack121, who's saying, assuming this turns out bad, do you think Fox will drop 2000 Leagues Under the Sea altogether, which is supposed to be? That's another great question. Now, he's supposed to have this other big project coming up sometime in the future. Is this, but again, it goes back to the other question. This is one of two situations. We just don't know which one it is. Is it Fox giving him a rap on the wrist saying this behavior's got to stop? Or is this them basically saying, we're done with you? You're done. We want nothing more to do with you. You have pulled this crap too many times, yada, yada, yada. We don't know what the case is, but it's got to be one of those situations. We're just going to have to wait and find out and see how that goes. All right, let's move on to the next tweet. Next tweet comes to us from Ironhide48, who writes, John, if they do get a new director for Bohemian Rhapsody, I don't want it to have any reshoots that could potentially make this film bad. Well, I mean, reshoots don't make a film bad. I mean, reshoots are trying to correct something that is bad. So one thing this could present Fox an opportunity with, if there's something they didn't quite like in the film, that the way it was coming together, perhaps this is something that gives them the opportunity to go back and fix it. So we'll see. Now, another super chat has come in here from Jankari P, who writes, do you think the whole movie is in danger? No, I don't think the movie's in danger. Again, maybe this could be a different story if they were like 3 weeks into shooting and now they got to start from scratch. This is a movie that was only 2 weeks away from completion. So that tells me they're 80% of the way there, maybe 75% of the way there. So they just need to get in somebody to wrap this thing up. And so on that level, I don't think this is a problem. Look, if Sony can take just 5 weeks from release, if they can take Kevin Smith out of their movie and reshoot all of Kevin Smith's scenes with Christopher Plummer, then they can, with 2 weeks left of shooting, they can bring in a new director, finish this thing off. They got a lot of time. They've got an awful lot of time to make this thing still work. So I don't think that's going to cause them too much trouble or too much headache as they move forward. Let's see. This next one comes to us from I Am Sandeep SD, who writes, could Simon Kinberg taking lead on X-Men movies here on out was a hint about Bryan Singer's professional behavior? I don't think so. I think it was more of a case of Bryan Singer wanting to do other things, that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea being one project. I don't think Bryan Singer ever saw himself as the big overheading shepherd of everything, so I don't think that was the case. I don't think the Simon Kinberg stuff is necessarily connected to the Bryan Singer stuff. If that was the case, I don't think you would have seen them letting Bryan Singer direct this Bohemian Rhapsody movie in the first place. Who knows? You could be right. I mean, you absolutely could be right. That is within the realm of possibility. I just don't think that's something that they're looking at doing right now. For those of you just joining in right now, just to recap, it has been announced that even though we heard the other day that Fox had halted production because of the unexpected absences of Bryan Singer, Fox has now officially pulled the trigger. Bryan Singer has been fired off of the movie. The only statement that Fox is giving is simply saying that Bryan Singer is no longer the director of the film. That's all they're saying right now. And we're taking your guys' live comments and tweets on this right now. Let's move on to the next one. This next one comes to us from Masked Prodigy writes, is X-Men Dark Phoenix finished with production? If not, could we see him replaced? Oh, X-Men Dark Phoenix was finished production a long time ago. That movie wrapped production a long time ago. So that's not in the that's not being affected at all by anything. This one comes to us from Spartan2W writes, John, will Bryan Singer still get the directing credit or will it be shared with the new director? According to DGA rules, and remember, Fox doesn't get to decide who is the director of credit. They don't get to decide that. The DGA, the Directors Guild of America, they have final say over who gets directing credit. If things stand as they are, and that's a big if, but if things stand as they are, and they just now bring in a new director to finish off the final 2 weeks of shooting, Bryan Singer will be the director of credit. If they change a significant amount of the stuff in the movie, somebody else could be given director's credit. Also, the DGA has at their disposal the option to name 2 directors of credit. They could name Bryan Singer and so-and-so, somebody else that they bring in. The DGA can do that. But ultimately, the important thing to keep in mind here is that that decision belongs to the DGA, not with Fox, not with anybody else. All right, let's just take a couple more reactions from you guys on this story. Again, this story to me is just... It's fascinating and disappointing and sad. Again, I'm a big fan of Bryan Singer as a director. As for the work he does and the movies he puts on screen, I'm a fan. So this type of stuff is really, really disappointing to hear. Bend It Like Bay writes, John, do you think that the Bryan Singer thing has anything to do with Disney wanting to buy Fox? Oh, no, absolutely not. No. That's nothing. I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked if we found out there was some kind of, weird cloak and dagger, tomfoolery thing with some connecting A to B to C to D that somehow it's connected. I highly, highly doubt this has anything to do with that. Let's see. This next one comes to us from George Brown 1461 saying, John, what's the reason for him not showing up again? Laziness? Maybe. Maybe the dude is just that damn lazy. Maybe he just thinks, again, I'm speculating here, okay? Just speculating. Again, let's keep in mind, over the next 24, 48 hours, maybe we find out, a piece of news comes out that gives us a rational explanation for all this. Let's keep that open as a possibility. For now, just with the information in front of us, it kind of looks to me like the dude just thinks he's so important he doesn't have to show up to work if he doesn't want to. I hope that's not the case. But if it is laziness, if it's substance abuse problems, if it's him going on benders, if it's him just thinking he's too good to have to show up like everybody else does, I'm the director. If that's the case, screw him. And I'm glad he got replaced and I'm glad he got fired. But again, let's keep our minds open that there could be other explanations. There could be something else here at play that we just don't know about. Let's keep our minds open to the possibilities. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this quick live video. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your opinions and your thoughts. Continue the conversation on. Jump into the comments section below and leave your thoughts and opinions. What do you think is going on here? How do you think this will resolve itself? Do you think they're going to bring in another director? Do you think they're just going to use the cinematographer who apparently, according to reports, the days that Singer just wouldn't show up, the cinematographer just stepped in because they needed somebody to direct. And will he finish out the rest of the movie? What do you guys think? Leave your opinions in the box below. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name is John Campea, of course. And until the next video, bye-bye.